All right, welcome back to Technical Writing Uncensored. I'm here with Fabrizio Ferri Benedetti, technical writer and blogger. He has the Paso Uno blog, which if you aren't reading, you totally should be. So I'm going to just jump right in. Fabri, are we running towards an AI utopia or an AI dystopia? And by we, I mean
Well,
humans,
first
not
of
just
all,
tech writers.
right. First of all, good day. Thanks for having me here. I think neither. I think it's gonna be like a depressing middle ground, where we will have some good stuff that we will learn to live with and benefit from, and some bad applications. And I think this has been true for all major transformative technologies, and it's going to be true for this one as well, unfortunately.
So I hear some companies are trying to upskill their writers so that we are AI native. What does that even mean?
Ah,
And do we want
well,
that? Do we want to be native AI or AI native?
I think we sometimes need to have like a better grasp of AI, and
Hmm.
I think calling it an AI native perhaps is a bit of a it's a kind of a marketingy way of putting it, which I totally understand, but we do need to take on some of those skills, and I think we need to. I advocate for exploring this technology and adding some of these tools to your toolbox as it makes sense, um, but really not to the point of like becoming obsessed with AI. And I know some folks that are I'm still not counting myself among those, but
Hmm.
because I do use AI a lot, but not to the point where I'm delegating lots of stuff or, spinning 20 sub-agents to build a next software of the future or spending like thousands of dollars in API costs. So I'm not there, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I think again, I know it's kind of disappointing because it's to answer it like this, but again, we need like a middle ground. We need again to not native, perhaps like AI as a second language is something that we can pick up, and make ours.
All right. So earlier you were talking about a depressing middle ground, but now you're talking about an optimistic middle ground.
It's like is the glass half full, half empty? Depends on the day, perhaps. I think it's depressing for the folks who think that AI is gonna change the world and is gonna save us and is gonna, solve all the major problems of the planet. And for those, the middle ground might look depressing. For folks that are struggling sometimes with business as usual maintenance work, or bits of their work that they don't really like. That's where I'm seeing the most meaningful impact of AI. In like things like, well, I don't need to write these release notes from scratch from the beginning anymore, or I can change lots of metadata in multiple repositories just by issuing a command with a prompt and a few instructions, and it's saving me lots of time. And those are the nice moments. Those are the moments I think will be really transformative and positive. Not the, oh, AI is gonna find a cure for cancer. I really hope it does, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I mean, you cannot just throw lots of compute at a problem and think it's gonna come up with something new and refreshing and interesting. So for again, for really depends on the starting expectations. Like, you know,
Mhm. I think that the framing of AI will solve our problems is wrong. I think that AI might help us solve our problems. I mean,
yeah,
the machine learning tools, not just LLMs, which everyone is focusing on because they're the new hotness, but all sorts of different machine learning models allow us to, basically crunch numbers and do pattern recognition a lot faster. And if we can get through the possibilities. I forget who said, Thomas Edison, who said, I haven't failed 100 times. I found 100 designs that don't work. So get through the ones that don't work and hopefully get to something that does work
Yeah.
faster.
The problem, I think, is the perception of agency, which is
Hmm.
an illusion. So we are drawn to think that AI is actually autonomous and intelligent, where it's not. So it's a bit like saying that AI is going to solve problems. It's like saying that a hammer is going to solve problems. No, I mean, you're going to solve the problem. You're going to solve the problem through the hammer. You're going to use the hammer to solve a problem. And you're going to use AI to solve a set of problems. But AI is not going to solve the problem for you. You're going to do it. And I think this is the mental trap where sometimes some people sadly fall when they think that they can replace folks with so-called AI. But really, what they're doing is like just placing a hammer on the table. And what is really happening sometimes, which really makes me sad, is that maybe they reduce a team from three to one, and the one that remains is has a new shiny hammer. And they say, well, you can do like the work of the other two people. Well, that's sadly sometimes what is happening, and it's not replacement. It's like shrinking the size of the team, or laying off people with the lamest excuse. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's just so short-sighted because, well, what if that last person leaves? The company is completely SOL.
totally, yeah,
And one thing that I do to kind of try to fight back a little bit on that mindset is I try not to call it AI. It is artificial. It's not an intelligence. It's an
yes.
LLM. Just
Ah, that's
to
so
kind of,
hard. Yeah,
it's
I mean,
just
I'm
a
the
habit.
first that totally. I mean, I'm I I also dislike calling it AI. Unfortunately, it's like a convenient shortcut to the reader's brains, and
Yeah.
because we're talking about the same thing, and this unfortunately has devalued the meaning of AI,
Hmm.
especially for researchers that have been studying AI for decades, and now they have these Chinese room experiment outputting words randomly that make sense, and they're like, no, not call it that AI, like it's showing all my work out of the window. But yeah, it is
Yeah, I
what it
think
is.
they're.
Like we have to use the same words for now. Although mostly I use LLMs.
Mhm.
In my blog post, for example, I almost always use LLMs, but sometimes I have to resort to AI to just make the point of this is what everybody's calling it.
Yeah, I think that the people who are actually trying to create what people have traditionally thought of as artificial intelligence are calling it AGI now, like artificial generative intelligence or something like that, so that they can differentiate the two.
Artificial, yeah, general intelligence is like what they would like to achieve. But I think, well, I mean, I I majored in cognitive psychology, so I know a bit of this. And to be honest, I don't think this is achievable at all, not with the current means. But we have like a good enough illusion of intelligence and a good pattern recognition machine at work that does some useful transformations. That's, again, it's not exciting, but it can be useful.
It does, but I mean, kind of what are the personal costs? We mentioned earlier about not
Yeah.
needing to write things from scratch anymore, but the downside to that is the writer doesn't have as much understanding necessarily. I used to, when I was a manager, managing a team, I made a point of writing the release notes because then I knew exactly what was going to be in each release. And this was
Yeah.
well before LLMs were a thing. And, there's, I think, a real cost to not having that knowledge and that intimate understanding of your product.
There is, and I would argue that especially when you're creating, for example, the first documentation set at
Hmm.
any company or for any project, You should be the one doing the manual effort first, because that's the content that tip the balance of entropy and avoid like information slop in the future. Is
Mhm.
that you input high quality stuff at the beginning, at least. And then, well, then there can be like more derivative content down the road. But so it's more about choosing the right moment where you have to contribute yourself. And I'm hoping here that the time you free from chores through AI is time you can spend on these high quality content efforts. And on the other hand, inevitably, we're going to work more as editors and as managers of artificial entities. So you might have like a bit of a deja vu there. If you were a manager, you might become again a manager just of LLMs, which you know have different requirements in terms of career growth. But there they are.
Yeah. So as we make these pipelines, we keep hearing about the AI bubble bursting. What does that mean for us who might be using or constructing these carefully thought out pipelines of, that are going to be writing our release notes or drafts and
Yeah.
helping
Well, I
to
mean, if yeah,
automate stuff partially?
uh, there might be hiccups if that happens. To put it like mildly, the tech is gonna. I believe the tech is gonna stick around anyway. Uh,
Mm,
the tech has been figured out. It might be run by other players at a lower cost because competition exists. Um, and one of the things that as I'm designing like agentic workflows and skills these days is that 99% of these artifacts that we create so that we can use AI, and more efficiently is just documentation. It's
mhm.
docs. And docs are not vendor locked. So you can move them around. You can, if you have like a Claude skill today, and let's say Claude goes bust tomorrow, you still have the document. You just change the front matter to any other system that is going to run that. And it's going to work more or less like before, or perhaps even better. Because, and here is the power of a technical writer right now is that what the LLM needs is good writing and good information and good context. And I would say we are pretty good at all those things as
Yeah.
writers. And I think engineers will increasingly come to us for guidance on these things like, how should I write this? Do you think am I speaking clear enough to the machine? And they might have their own ideas and intuitions. I think we can help them with that.
Yeah, coming back to us becoming more editors, do you think that we'll be seeing more engineers writing drafts or using LLMs to write drafts that then we edit? Is that going to be our
I
new
think
pipeline?
that's already, yeah, I think that's already happening.
Hmm.
I think that what's important is that we cannot really say no to this. I mean, this is going to
Yeah.
happen anyway, whether we like it or not. What we can do, and every time I think of this, you remember that scenes from the Indiana Jones first movie. He's in a market, and all of a sudden, a guy with a huge sword comes out,
Hmm.
and Indy is like drenched in sweat, and he's like, "Not again!" He just pulls out the pistol and shots the guy. And I think it's that. Well, of course, it's not that scene today. Probably wouldn't fare well in anyway. But the spirit of the scene is like we are tech writers. We are kind of tired already of all this, but
Yeah.
eventually we will have to create skills and we will have to create instructions that engineers are going to use so that they don't bother later on. What do I mean by this? I mean that if we own that aspect of creating skills, creating tools that draft the doc through AI, chances are that they're gonna use the toy in a safer way than if we weren't there providing those tools.
Oh,
So
so
we
you
need to
mean
be
we should
there. We need
own the
to.
prompt? There should be a card
We
right
should own the
there to
prompt.
how to
Yes,
go.
we should own the prompt. There you go. That's exactly what I mean. Like we need to own it, and perhaps it's my personal, ethos point of view about this is that technical writers should really own more stuff everywhere because we are masters of words, and most of the things we do in engineering is words. So we are kind of
Yeah.
entitled to that.
Yeah. One of the things that blew my mind when I was learning Python was that coding really is just another form of writing. It's just for a really, really picky
Yeah.
editor.
Yeah.
But do you think that there's a big difference using LLMs for writing versus coding? Like emotionally satisfying, like mentally, like,
I think we are way more complex than a compiler. So when you ask an LLM to write code, I think it's actually easier for it than to write good prose.
mhm,
And the prose is not gonna jam because we are not like deterministic either. Like we're not like
mhm.
a C compiler that is, oh, there's a misplaced comma, I'm gonna faint. Well, some editors are like that. Uh, yeah, some copy editors are like very strict compilers, unfortunately. But most of us, most of the people that read text is quite forgiving with little things and
Mhm.
little errors, etc. And what they're really seeking is meaning and emotion and things that are hard to convey by an artificial being. And when it comes to documentation, they're also looking for the hidden context that is might not be available just yet. And all that what I refer to as tension in one of my last posts is that technical writing deals with friction, tension, and truth. And if an LLM just cannot deal with these aspects as well as a human being.
Yeah, that's a nice segue into my next question. Kind of, what are we gaining versus losing? Off, shoring off a lot of our jobs onto these tools. I mean, it's nice to have something do those soul-killing things. Like you need to go through a bunch of code blocks and rewrite the SQL from lowercase to uppercase, and being able to automate something like that is great. But, what where do we draw the line there? And what do we lose or gain in the process of all of this and incorporating these tools?
I wish I had an answer. I feel like it's very soon. I only have like the faintest impression that something might get lost, but I'm not entirely sure what. And it's unsettling, it's uncomfortable as a thought, of you're entering this room and there's a big promise, but at the same time you feel like you're gonna lose something, but you don't know. You don't know for sure, like what's gonna happen there, what you're gonna lose. I think it's healthy for a technical writer right now to start going to the gym, figuratively
Mhm.
speaking, outside of work, which means, for example, I write in the blog, and 99% of the writing is human, is made by me. I might ask the LLM for assistance with a few things, here and there, maybe rephrasing something or coming up with an alternative. But the writing is mine, and it's an effort, an active cognitive effort, and I feel good about writing something myself there that I care about. And I think is for any intellectual worker out there, whether a developer or a writer, there will be an increasing need of these mental gym moments where you go and craft something yourself, you write something yourself, you create code from scratch without AI assistant, just to feel good, just to feel a different kind of reward, you know, uh, rather than just rolling out stuff continuously, which is it's kind of bland as a satisfaction.
Is both bland and, at least for a while, it was almost addictive, with
Yeah,
the
there
tool
is that.
always
Yeah.
telling you how brilliant you
Yes.
are and it's just so easy.
There's a dopamine shot for sure. Like being able to do something that works is has an addictive quality to it for sure. Um, but at least my generation, I don't know about the future generations. Maybe the future generation won't care that much. But I do find satisfaction in doing things the old way and, through artwork
Yeah.
sometimes. Maybe not for all tasks. Like, I probably don't enjoy entering metadata, say, in 1,000 documents, but it's something that I wouldn't enjoy even without AI. Um, but I do think that the new generations, maybe that will have AI since the beginning, will also enjoy doing things the old way too, because you just have to look at video games. Like
Hmm.
any kid these days is willing to put thousands of hours in getting better at the video game.
Yep.
And if you tell them, well, use AI for that, I mean, where's the fun of that? I mean, they will see we'll probably be more selective, like where do we want to have fun? Where do we want to spend effort? And that's kind of a luxury that we have.
It's a luxury we have, but what about people who don't have access to these tools or have
Yes.
access to a poorer quality of the tools, like maybe with ads or with older models that just aren't as good?
Yeah. That's again, the digital divide is
Hmm.
quite alive and healthy, unfortunately. And we see that in the access to AI tools. And it's just painful to think that some folks are not able to benefit from the same kind of augmentation because they don't have access to, say, Claude, or they have like a very limited subscription, or they get low quality stuff. Um, my personal hope there is that we will get more open source, high quality models. That running those models will be like very commoditized in a few years. Like you could run something as powerful as today's Claude in your laptop, for example. Thanks to and that should also, by the way, lower energy consumption, environmental damage. So I'm really hoping that as these technologies become more and more prevalent in our society, um, something similar to what happened with open source will happen also here. And it is sort of happening already. Like there's people pushing already for open models, open weights,
Hmm.
so that you can run those models, etc. It might take some time to get there, but in the meantime, the divide exists, and we really need to be careful there.
Yeah, at least, keep our eyes on it. But yeah, the
Yeah,
decentralized AI movement is going to be interesting to see if it gets traction in the coming
yeah,
years and what that turns into. I mean, everybody
yeah,
having their own, AI assistant that they control, that they feed the the input into, rather than having, some black box owned by a
yeah.
corporation.
Even with like in my prediction post, I'm hoping that will be like models will come with a pedigree certificate,
Oh.
or traceability. Yeah, like, oh, so this is a nice model. So what materials did you use to train it? Like, were they
Hmm.
ethical? Were they paid for?
Yeah.
Was it like like public domain, etc. And is it legal content?
Hmm.
Does it pass these and these other certification? And so we are still like becoming consumers here, but as it happens with, say, food or vehicles or any appliances, I think consumers will wake up and realize that they also need to demand better guarantees on the kind of model they're running.
Yeah, I agree, not just in terms of how it's trained, but also guardrails for mental health
Yeah,
and what kind of
Yeah,
usage. I mean, I keep seeing news stories about people really suffering from AI delusions. And I could definitely see people who either use these tools heavily or especially those who are not as savvy about how these things actually work under the hood being
right.
taken in by that.
Yeah, that's something that we also need to be careful about. Again, I think is a consequence of rolling out a new technology in a way that, like in the wild and just releasing it and
Hmm.
not thinking about it's also hard to predict. Like these things are hard to predict, unfortunately. But it happens also with many other technologies. And I still remember, all the news articles about video games at the beginning of the
Oh yeah.
90s.
Oh,
Remember
the
that? Like,
D&D satanic panic of the 80s.
yeah, or Street Fighter or Doom or, violence in video games. And now it's sort of faded off, but it was real. It was a real concern. And things got better. It did get better a
Hmm.
bit. But at the same time, the public got more expert and better at navigating, that new technology and those new trends. So there's always like
Yeah.
an adaptation period.
Yeah, but none of those things that people were concerned about were actually on your machine with access potentially to your bank account and
True,
investment
that's true.
portfolio, which is what people are doing right now. That blows my mind. I'm like, why, why would you open yourself up to that kind of risk? I, I, I don't know. It probably says something about my personality there that I'm not going to let a robot
Yeah, no, but it's true
into my
that
bank account.
human beings are particularly good at finding novel and more powerful ways of harming themselves.
Yeah.
I think that we can say that much about the human race,
I think that that has been valid throughout the centuries.
right?
I hope we grow out of it eventually, but I don't know. Anyway, let's
Yeah,
see if we can end on a happier note. We talked about
yeah,
a little bit earlier about, going to the mental gym. How
yeah.
else can we, you know, can people protect themselves against AI making them dumber or less human or just lazy?
Um, I think in general, it's really about not losing curiosity and trying to stimulate the same kind of things we were concerned about, like when the internet appeared, the e-books, e-readers, and people was concerned about reading less books. In general, it's curiosity helps you not just explore new technology, which is great, by the way, and it's like a great way of approaching, for example, AI is just by trying out new things with safety, of course.
Hmm.
Like don't install OpenClaw on your main computer, for example.
Yeah.
Just do that. um, and then yeah, I think the mental gym is real. Um, I think it's a good time. Like I wish AI freed ourselves of more time to do other stuff. I feel like that's still not happening. Sometimes it even
Yeah.
creates more opportunities to work even more,
Yeah,
which is a
editing
trap,
stuff to
right?
so
Yes.
that it doesn't look like it was written by AI. It's like we took this whole AI thing backwards instead of automating the scut work that people hate doing. People are like, let's automate art away and translation and human connection away. And hey, let's have an AI dating service instead of, the things that people hate doing, like data entry or boring stuff.
Yeah. I truly think we are, back in the times of the Romans, like folks like to retire to their garden and they had
Hmm.
their garden and they tend to it and they grew vegetables like some emperors did that even in ancient Rome. And I think now we need to our own mental garden that we can tend to and grow like our organic stuff. And the organic stuff can be, I don't know, like a book of poetry. It can
Oh
be
yeah.
drawings. It can be, I'm thinking myself of writing some narrative on the side just for myself,
Hmm.
and I think there will be soon a market for truly certified organic thoughts and artifacts. And it will be, oh, this is like a vintage Diana poem, written
Hmm.
in whatever, 2026. And people will appreciate that more than anything that the AI can, roll out. Might take some time again to get there, but I totally recommend that you create your analog garden, free of AI, free of software, and you just reconnect with those areas of your brain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already seeing labels on some content that, hey, this is
Yeah,
completely human written, completely human created art, completely human generated content. And I think that you're right there, that there's people are seeing the value of that more. And I think it would also really be healthy for people to actually learn more about machine learning. Maybe
yeah,
not, actually take some tutorials so that you understand, the difference between
yeah,
random forest and
yeah,
LLMs, and so that you
yeah,
kind of understand how these things work under the hood. Because once you get that, it's a lot, I wouldn't say less impressive, maybe, but it's a lot less mysterious. It's less magical. And I think that
yeah.
that's really healthy for
We need
us.
to, yeah, and it will help also with the mental health issues in the sense that
Yeah.
we need to demystify this technology and really not think about it like what it isn't. It isn't magic. It isn't a true person. It's just a statistical machine running on some computer somewhere, churning out words that are plausible from your inputs. And that's pretty much about it. Like, is a very sophisticated toy that
Hmm.
can help us, but it's not gonna replace what makes us human. And it's kind of ironic that we might end up like discovering like what we really appreciate about the human nature due to AI. But I've seen like more absurd things happening. So,
Well, there's a reason that Dark Mirror has such a huge following.
right?
Sometimes you need to have that twisted reflection in order to really see yourself.
Indeed.
And hey, on that note, viewers, tell us about your mental garden. What are you doing to stay
Yeah,
sane and grounded in this age of AI, which, as we all know, are actually LLMs? And what are you doing to? I'm going to just trail off there. So, thank you for coming and joining me today, Fabri. And folks, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. It really helps out the channel with the algorithm. And I'll see you on the flip side. It's Technical Writing Uncensored.
thank you.